What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome into the Thomas Mott Show. The NFL season is quickly flying by right now. I mean, really, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to get a lot clearer look at the NFL playoff picture in both the NFC and AFC. And whether you're an Eagles fan, like I am, which you can clearly tell, or you're a fan of one of these other potential playoff teams, I want to go ahead and give our first look, our first deep dive into the current NFL playoff picture and where the matchups are on both the NFC side and the AFC side, and talk about how these things can change with teams winning and losing as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL playoffs. I mean, it's November, beginning of November, right? First week in November right now, meaning in just a couple of weeks, this is going to become very, very clear in terms of who's going to be the 1, who could be the 6, who could be, on the outside looking in, and so on and so forth. So let's just go ahead and jump into the current NFL playoff picture. We'll start in the NFC, then go to the AFC, and we'll give you a good look at where teams stand right now. So, right now, CBS Sports has a great look at the potential playoff picture, and again, this is subject to change based on when you watch this show or, a couple weeks from now, but Philadelphia is your clear number 1 seed, and the good news is they have a 1.5 game lead right now over the 2-seeded Vikings. Because of that win week 2 on Monday Night Football, if let's say Philadelphia were to lose on Sunday to the Washington Commanders, the Vikings were to win, then you would still have Philadelphia as the 1 seed despite both teams being 8-1. So that key win in week 2 is crucial for Philadelphia, but it also shows that Minnesota is lingering, and they are the true, really, one big threat to Philadelphia and the 1 seed. And it is so important to mention for both right now Buffalo and Philadelphia, the 1 seed is crucial. It used to be if you were a 1 seed or a 2 seed, it didn't really matter. You'd have a first round bye, and then if you're the 2 seed, you would go on the road to go ahead and play the 1 seed at worst in the NFC Championship game, right, or the AFC Championship game. That's no longer gone, and especially in the NFC right now, if you're the 2 seed, you have a brutal first round wild card matchup, as you see here, as it currently stands, right? Minnesota would go ahead and have to have the San Francisco 49ers travel to Minneapolis to take on the Vikings. That's a very tough first round matchup for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, it's tough for the Niners as well, but that is not an easy win. That's not a guarantee win, right? And you got to win that one and then win a divisional round game and then maybe beat Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game. That's a tough road right now for the Minnesota Vikings, but that goes to show why the Eagles must keep winning, why winning is so crucial right now, because the difference between a 1 seed and a 2 seed could mean playing the Niners in the first round versus playing a team like maybe the Giants or the Seahawks or even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in round 2. Which would be a lot easier, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles. So there's your 2-7 matchup. I think San Francisco is going to be a lower seed here. I think right now it looks like Seattle is going to win that division. Now, it's still so darn early, and the teams still got to play each other, and so that can easily change. But it is worth noting you have a much more favorable matchup if you are a 3 seed versus if you are a 7 seed, based on how just the playoffs have worked forever in the NFL. This 3-6 matchup, it is going to be an NFC East team, right? The 6 seed is going to be an NFC East team, and it feels like the 5 seed is going to be an NFC East team as well. It does feel like the Giants and the Cowboys are both going to go. Now, maybe the Giants slide down to the number 7 seed. Who knows? But this definitely feels like it's going to have 3 NFC East teams, and then you're going to go ahead and have the divisional winners from the rest of the divisions, and then one extra team, in this case, the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this 4 seed is fascinating to look at right now because it's kind of the NFC South seed, because the NFC South is the worst division right now in the NFC, and you kind of have a 2-horse race between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Atlanta is right behind Tampa Bay, and they will play each other again, and so that could easily be the Falcons, but it does feel like if you're the 5 seed this year, and as right now, the Dallas Cowboys are sitting in that spot, you have a much more favorable first-round matchup instead of having to go to Seattle, or in the case of being the 7 seed, go to the Minnesota Vikings as it currently stands. That game on the road against the Bucs, the Cowboys would be heavy favorites, and the same would go if the Cowboys were on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, 7, 5, and 6, it can all change, and there's still plenty of time left, but it is worth noting that if you are going to take on the NFC South team, you have a much higher chance of going a little bit further, or at least winning your first round matchup in the NFC. Now, in terms of who would play in the second round, it's very simple how it works out. I'll explain it to you. Philadelphia would get the lowest winning seed, right? So let's just say the Niners were to beat the Vikings, then the 7th seed would go to the 1 seed. It'd be Niners versus Eagles. But if the Vikings were to win, and the Seahawks were to win, and the Bucs were to win, Philadelphia would take on the 4 seed, right? So it'd be 2 versus 3 and 1 versus 4. So the 1 seed gets the lowest winning seed, meaning Philadelphia has no chance of playing the 2 seed in the first round if they were the 1 seed, and a very, very slim chance of playing the 3 seed, which, again, all speculation, gives you a chance against the Bucs maybe in the divisional round, or maybe you take on the Giants or the 49ers, depending on what were to happen. So, again, it's still early. These things are all going to change, and we'll see a lot of comments in the bottom of the show talking about, oh, well, this team's going to win. It won't be that, case will come a couple of weeks from now. As it currently stands, that 1 seed is brutally important right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, we'll get into the AFC here in just 1 second. First, though, you feeling confident about your football team this weekend? I feel really good about the Eagles' chances against the Washington Commanders. DraftKings has a great promo right now down below in the description box to bet on your team, and if they win, you get $200 in free bets. I mean, this is really, really good. So if your first money line bet wins, you're going to get $200 in free bets. So really, you make your account using the link down below, deposit $5+ bet that $5+ on any pregame money line, basically if you think your team's going to win, and if they do, you get $200 in free bets. A great way to go ahead, not only get your betting career started, or go ahead and get started with DraftKings. Really good partnership here. Go down below and check out the deal right now. Okay, let's go back to the AFC here. Let's take a quick look at where the AFC currently stands. Much more of a cluster at the top, right? Philadelphia being undefeated gives them a little bit of breathing room as the 1 seed. Not so with Buffalo. Now, Buffalo stays the 1 seed despite their loss to the Jets this past week, but it is very, very close as Kansas City is nipping at their heels, and really the Ravens are sitting up there as well with a very, very good chance of possibly sliding into the 1 or the 2 seed. What's going to be tricky if you're a 2, 3, or 4 are these matchups, right? Because you have these 3 football teams right now at 5, 6, and 7, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Chargers, all of which have their flaws, right? The Chargers' defense is not that great. Miami, they've flashed at times. They have a really high-powered offense, but for some reason, at least the past couple of weeks and their losses, their defense has been a little bit up and down. The Jets are very, very fun. Big win against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, but that offense with Zach Wilson can definitely sputter at times. We saw that just 2 weeks ago. And so each of those bottom seeds in the AFC has their flaws, but they're all pesky, right? The Chargers have Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. The Dolphins, we just mentioned, have a bunch of receivers, and the Jets have a really good defense and a cornerback in Sauce Gardner who can take away your number 1 option. I mean, whether you're playing the Ravens, you want to take away Rashad Bateman, you're playing the Chiefs, you want to take away, I guess, Juju Smith-Schuster, or if Buffalo were to slide down, Stephon Diggs, as we saw this past week, they all have a really, really good shot at pulling off the upset. What I think is going to be crucial here, and this is crucial every single year, is that 1 seed. I think if you're Buffalo and Kansas City and you're battling it out for that 1 seed right there, if you're able to hold it, your chances of going to the AFC Championship game skyrocket. And you got to remember, you're most likely going to see an AFC Championship game between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And so you want the path of least resistance. That way you're not all beat up or you're not all exhausted, or you didn't have to go through the Tennessee Titans in round 2 just to be able to possibly face off against Buffalo or Kansas City, depending on which team you're thinking about there. So it's a fascinating playoff picture right now. It is definitely going to go ahead and change in the next couple of weeks, but I want to start showing you guys where we are currently sitting, whether you're an Eagle fan or not, and explain the scenarios and how things are going and what could possibly happen with your football team coming up as the playoffs, really a couple months away, right? We're beginning of November, and so it's going to really escalate quickly, and this is going to change and have a lot of fun added onto it as we get closer and closer. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our power rankings here as we wrap up today's show. We always like to do this on the Thomas Mott Show, looking at NFL.com's power rankings, where your team, where the Eagles rank over the past couple of weeks, has fluctuated a little bit, but we'll see where they're at following Week 9. Going into Week 10, Philadelphia takes back the number 1 spot. They've not been there the past couple of weeks, but they do it because they're undefeated, and the number 1 team last week in the Buffalo Bills did lose. And so this Philadelphia should be number 1 until they lose, right? Regardless of the team they play performs well against them, or if the offense struggles a little bit here or there, the defense gives up some yards. Like, it wasn't perfect against the Houston Texans on Thursday night, but they still won the football game. They still performed much better in the second half, and they still look like the best football team in the National Football League, and they should stay at number 1 until they have that first loss, which, you never know when it's going to come. I don't think it'll come Monday night against the Commanders. Maybe it's the Packer game. Titan game is going to be tough, but I definitely think you keep the Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. Buffalo should stay at 2, and I know that Kansas City obviously had a nice win against the Titans, a gutsy overtime win, but I still think Buffalo deserves to be 2 ahead of Kansas City because of the head-to-head, right? The head-to-head situation. Now, the whole Josh Allen elbow injury, we don't know how serious that is. Maybe by the time you watch this show, it's changed a little bit. Maybe he's out this week. Maybe he's not. I'm not sure. But until Buffalo really starts to struggle and put together multiple losses in a row, I would keep them ahead of Kansas City, who sits at 3. Dallas on a bye, they are 6-2, and the hype I think is starting to really climb right now. And whether they sign OBJ or not, again, maybe that happened before you saw this video, who knows? But OBJ and the possibility of that offense getting better is why a lot of people are high on Dallas. You believe in the defense, you think the defense is really good, which I do. But the question is, can the offense score with some of these better teams in the NFC, whether it's the Vikings or the Eagles, if they were to add a receiver or not? That's going to be a real question. Baltimore starting to play very, very well. I would have Baltimore ahead of Tennessee or behind Tennessee. I know Tennessee lost this past week, but I think Tennessee versus Baltimore in a head-to-head situation, I would take the Titans all day of the week, but they're at least playing better defense in Baltimore, and that was a big problem of theirs early on in the year. San Francisco falls a little bit to 6. They're still very pesky. They're still very good. They're getting healthier. Are they really, worthy of a top 10 spot after having 4 losses this year? That's not my decision, but they have them at 6 here. I would not put them ahead of Minnesota. I think the Vikings have earned a top 5 spot. I think when you're 7-1 in this league, it's tough to do. They've had a nice come-behind win the past couple of weeks. I know it was the Commanders, but still, it's a pesky football team. I would have them a little bit higher. And I do think Tennessee is that dark horse in the AFC that you do not want to play in the divisional round, right? If you're Kansas City or Buffalo, anything you possibly can do to avoid playing Tennessee is massive because it's going to be cold. It's going to be Derrick Henry all game long. And if your defense is not up to the task of stopping Derrick Henry 30-plus times in a game when Ryan Tannehill is healthy, you're going to be up for, a serious, serious test come playoff time. Jets rolling at 9. The Seahawks are still getting a little bit of disrespect there at 10, but they had a really solid win so far this year. I don't think the Cardinals last week was that solid, but they still are a very pesky football team and deserve to be at 10. Cincinnati is going to be in the top 10 by the end of the year. I know that they are, outside looking in on the playoff picture right now, but I definitely think Cincinnati is going to start to really ramp things up, especially when Jamar Chase comes back, and be that other really tough team whenever you got to play them, whether it's Tennessee or the Cincinnati Bengals. Dolphins still at 12, Giants at 13 because of the bye week, and then, of course, the Patriots there at 14, Chargers at 15. And so, a couple of changes. Things are starting to definitely shape up here in the NFL, and really, your football team needs to start winning, right? Whether it's the Eagles or someone else, you got to start winning to keep your playoff hopes alive and keep your playoff picture clear. That way you give yourself a really good chance of possibly winning and then moving on to the next round. Be sure to like this video if you guys like the playoff look here on the Thomas Mott Show. Plenty more content coming up next couple of days and weeks. And of course, as we approach 6,000 subs, be sure to subscribe. I appreciate all 6,000 of you who have subscribed here on the Thomas Mott Show over these first couple of months. My goal is to give you guys some great NFL and Eagle content as often as possible. And if you guys like that, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe. Again, I'm Thomas Mott Show, signing off. See you guys.